Welcome into Pick 6 presented by KFAN. I'm Tatum Everett. We got Gabe Henderson on the corner here and a new face, not to Minneapolis and not to many Vikings fans, but new to the Vikings beat, or as we can say, just back again.
Yes.
I think is safe to say. Kevin Seiftert now with ESPN.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
How does
Thank
it
you.
feel to be back in this building, back with the Vikings? I know you had a long media day today.
The funny thing is, I'm so old that when I did the beat, it was at Winter Park. And when I went to games, it was at the Metrodome, and so it's almost like I'm covering a new team already. So it'll be fun to get used to. These are a little nicer digs than they had over in Eden Prairie. A little bit better working environment, I'd say, and the stadium certainly is a lot nicer. And I'm looking forward to it. It's fun. It's going to be fun to see how this group grows and see what happens this season.
Yeah, you're not the only new face around these parts, as we'll get into that in a little bit later when we take your fan questions. But I felt like it was necessary to start this show off because we love the Vikings, but we also love all Minnesota sports. And there is a very important game, too, tonight down in Memphis. So, Kevin, I want to start with you. You have 30 seconds to talk about your thoughts on this Timberwolves-Grizzlies playoff series.
Well, first thing, I'm glad it's not one of these 9 o'clock tips. I'm not sure, if, as an old man, if I'd be able to stay up that late to watch. And certainly my son is a big fan as well, and he likes to stay up, but also has to go to school the next day. So I'm very happy about that. I've lived here 23 years, and I have not seen many Timberwolves playoff victories, maybe 1 or 2. And so I'm kind of like a believe it when I see it type of fan when it comes to the Timberwolves. I hope they do well. I've seen many cases where they have not, and so it's hard for me to get too excited quite yet.
All right, you have 3 seconds left. Give me your prediction.
I think they're going to win, but I've been wrong before.
Okay, all right. All right, Gabe.
Well, since
you're an NBA fan.
Since Kevin is going to play it safe, I'm going to say Wolves in 5. Like, this is arguably the best series and the best in the NBA playoffs right now, outside of the Boston Nets and Celtics series. But when you got Ja Morant, you got Anthony Edwards, you got so much young talent mixed with older talent, but 2 teams that have never had any playoff experience. I got Wolves in 5. I don't know how that's going to happen, but if they win tonight, I can see them honestly winning in 4, but this is still going to be a good series. I know the Timberwolves, they're the more talented team. They've been primed for this moment, but more importantly, they're playing a lesser seed, or a worser team, but a higher seed in the Memphis Grizzlies. So I'm taking the Timberwolves in 5.
You know, call me an optimist because I'm new to this Minnesota sports stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I've got the Wolves winning this series as well. It's an electric series. I love watching Anthony Edwards. I'm really not a big NBA watcher. I don't watch too many games. So watching that series has my attention hooked. I love what you said about the youth movement of this series because that's really what is going to make me invested, I guess, into this team a little bit more, continuing to watch what they do. You know, I can't imagine how Target Center is going to look if you get a 2-0 series. And I love what they said. They don't feel like they stole game 1. They earned it. And it was great.
They're the better team. The Timberwolves are the better team, but the Grizzlies have the better seed. And, you know, the regular season is always great, but it's about what you do in the playoffs.
It is. And, you know, we are talking a little about basketball, but obviously this is a Viking show. So let's jump into those fan questions. Change gears. Screw it real fast. We'll do question number 2 is from Pete, and this is for you, Kevin. Are the Vikings better off taking the best available defensive talent in the 2022 draft, which is coming up next week, or should they trade back for more draft capital?
All things equal, I am very much a trade back person. I think that the draft is a crapshoot. It is very hard to say, like, we're in this spot and we identified this great player and we know he's going to be a great player for 10 years. As smart as so many of these people are that do the drafting, including people here at the Vikings, it can be a 50-50 proposition. So to me, I always prefer volume. The more times more bites of the apple you get, the more chances you have to take a player. Just mathematically, the better chance you have of finding a really good player. There might be somebody who slips down to number 12 that you say, there's no way that we can trade down after he's there. But absent of that unexpected turn of events, I just can't imagine, to me, not taking the opportunity to get more picks later in the draft or even start building up next season's draft.
All about the analytics and the data for the new GM here in the building. And as you saw him there at the Combine, Kwesi is going to have a lot to figure out as far as that goes when they're on the clock. Or maybe not. Maybe they'll trade back.
Or maybe the clock will run out. But hopefully that's not the case.
Wow.
I certainly hope not. We got a little bit more professionals on that, though, Gabe. Speaking of professionals, Robert Douglas, Derby Caddy, has a nice question for you, especially, Gabe, because you're here in the facility around the players and what's going on the last couple of weeks. So what's the vibe among the players in the locker rooms and meetings or during workouts?
Well, when you talk to a bunch of the players and coaches here, I mean, we all sit down and eat lunch with a lot of these guys. We've had a lot of guys on the Minnesota Vikings podcast. Everyone talks about how different the vibe is. The first meeting that these players had last Monday on April 11th, everyone says Kevin O'Connell had the music playing in the big team meeting room. Everybody's conversing. Everybody's talking. People are willing to be able to open up a little bit more because there's a common factor in the room that everyone wants to get along and everybody wants to work towards a common goal. So no one has to be uptight with this team, with this new coaching staff, and I think that's what helps this new coaching staff with these young players that, hey, all we want you guys to do is just be yourselves.
Mentioned the Minnesota Vikings podcast. We just had Dalvin Tomlinson on, who said he's never had more fun at football since, I think he said high school.
Since he was in high school.
In high school. So it's been a while, and that new energy can hopefully yield better results. Another question we have, though, for Kevin is number 4, and it is a draft-related question. We'll go back into that pool. If there are no QBs taken before pick 12, should the Vikings consider trading down to a QB-needy team? And that's from Danny Messira, but I kind of feel like we might have a glimpse into your answer from what you said the first time around.
I mean, that's the sweet spot of all sweet spots in terms of trading down. If you are high enough in the draft where a quarterback hasn't been taken yet, you know, even though this is maybe not the best year for quarterbacks, I'm sure everyone's had that discussion. There are teams that need them, and there are teams that basically are going into this draft knowing that they're going to have to take somebody. And so I don't anticipate that happening, that, you know, getting all the way to 12 and there not being a single quarterback taken. But if it does, yes, cash in, build up your picks for this year, and get another first round probably for next year as well.
And I think that goes to your point. If a lot of quarterbacks do go in the top 10 or top 11, there will be a lot of guys in those top picks that will slide down to it. So that goes to your question. Do we go best player available, or do we get more draft capital for our picks? Because there's other players that other teams need with the 12th overall pick.
Absolutely.
The big puzzle that Kwesi's always talking about, trying to get the most value at the best pick possible, with the best pick possible.
Yep.
So speaking of picks, let's go out to Ethan Allen, not the furniture company. He has this one for Gabe. Does Stingley make it to pick number 12? 30 seconds.
EA Militia. I think he does. I think he does make it to the 12th overall pick, but I do think the 12th overall selection is Derek Stingley's floor. I don't think he goes any lower than that, and the Vikings may have to move up to get him if they really want him. But if you look at the draft, the mock drafts, and things of that nature as of late, everyone has the Vikings selecting Derek Stingley. If you talk to Peter King, we talked to him at the owners meeting that Kevin and I were at a couple of weeks ago, and Peter King said Kevin O'Connell was all in on Derek Stingley. So if he is there at 12, this is a game-changing corner that could suit and fit in this Minnesota Vikings defense right away, and I do think he'll be there at 12.
I know there are some concerns, obviously, because he had the injuries in college, but one inside look or inside guy that is here within the building is former LSU defensive backs coach or defensive coordinator Durante Jones, who's now the Vikings defensive coordinator. So what better guy to have some inside info on
and
that?
And Patrick Peterson is on the other side.
Well, you won't hear me not talking about drafting an LSU guy. That's nothing new to the Pick Six show. But we will finish, though, on a high note. We are going to finish with what are you most excited about this year's NFL draft? Cleveland was great last year, but now that there's more people allowed to be in Vegas. Vegas is such a big city. Viva Las Vegas, right? Kevin, what are you most excited about?
Well, maybe I'm just kind of a nerdy X's and O's guys, but I really can't. I'm really excited to find out which quarterback gets drafted first and how low that quarterback is going to be taken, because this is, I think 4 of the last 5 drafts has been a quarterback number 1 overall. It's almost gotten to the point where you just assume every year, unless there's like a Myles Garrett who was the one that wasn't the quarterback, unless he's out there. And this draft does not have that player, but is there going to be one in the top 10? And if not, how far will it go? And if there is a top 10, are they only 1 or 2? But to me, that's the most interesting question of the draft and the one I'm most excited to find out about.
I think many agree with you on that one.
It's a quarterback-driven league, so that makes sense.
All right, Gabe, what are you most excited about for the draft this year?
Well, every year, I look at the draft as a way for the world to see these players as humans. And my thing that I'm most excited about is to see these players' reaction when they get their name called by their GM from their respective team. in an instant, literally, these guys' lives are changed. Justin Jefferson right here, his life changed at this moment. And I think no matter the year, no matter the day, whether it's day 1, 2, or 3, when you get those raw reactions, it still sends chills down my spine because these guys are providing for their family. They just lived out a lifelong dream, and they start a new journey of their career, which they pretty much can dictate the rest of their future and how they want it to go. So I'm excited about that.
That's one of my favorite parts as well. But I can't not talk about the draft being in Las Vegas. And we saw those renderings years ago, but now it's finally coming to life. The NFL draft on the Strip.
Yes.
Nobody throws a better party than the NFL. It's going to be an absolute spectacle. I was there in 2019 for the Nashville draft. I can't even tell you, it was literally the highlight of my professional career.
It was
so much fun. It was amazing to be surrounded by all NFL fans. And honestly, it was 600,000 people spread across, you can tell right there, spread across 3 days. I mean, it just feels like we're really, really returning to this more sense of normalcy every month. And this is just kind of, I think, the next gateway to feeling like, a normal season that we're heading into, hopefully.
And you'll be there this year.
Yes, we will have boots on the ground there, but we have to talk about the Vikings draft party as well because KFAN is also going to be doing broadcasts from there. It's going to be at US Bank Stadium. You can get your tickets at Vikings.com. I mean, you got to go to the draft party if you're not headed to Vegas. I have a feeling, though, there's a lot of Minnesotans going to Vegas for this draft.
It's a cheap flight.
It's very popular.
Absolutely.
It's a very popular flight. Well, stick with Vikings, the app, the website, however you get your Vikings content for all of the latest with the NFL draft. We'll have a Pick 6 episode following the draft. Hopefully, Gabe will be here, and we'll get Paul Allen back in Kevin's seat. Thank you so much for being here, though, Kevin.
I got the Paul Allen gray hair.
I'm sure he's going to watch and love the nod.
You're a little more calm than Paul Allen.
A little bit more calm.
Yeah, just a bit.
We kept you on one train of thought today. No, but thank you for being here. We look forward to seeing your work on ESPN.com as you start this new journey or returning journey as the Vikings beat reporter for ESPN. Thanks for your time. If you want to submit your questions to Pick 6, you can always look for Gabe and I's tweets. And I think I got through all of our billboards and mentions and reminders, but be sure to stick with the Vikings as we head into the NFL 2022 draft next week.